Hello, welcome to the last video of social groups and religious participation or religiosity. Now, we're going to be looking at ethnicity and religious participation today. This will be page 48 to 49 if you want to follow in our little book. Now, we're going to start off with the UK census. Really provides us statistical data on ethnicity and religious identity. Now, I know the picture's not great, however, you can really see the main statistics, which is the main thing about this really. Now, it's not surprising when we look at this because religious identity tends to reflect the dominant religious views of the country of origin for these minority ethnic groups. So, for example, Hinduism in the case of Indian ethnic minorities and Islam for Pakistani and Bangladeshi minorities. As well as that, we can see that with Christianity, or we can see that the most dominant group with all that was the white British, as it were. Now, obviously, this is something by which it is quite influential when we are looking at religiosity, because how does ethnicity make you more or less religious? And throughout this video, potentially we're going to be looking at understanding that in a little bit more detail. So Madood et al. In 1997, with a bit of survey research, found that African Caribbeans have higher rates of participating in 20th century sects, such as the Seventh-day Adventists, and the New Testament Church of God as well. Now, the survey also found that there were big differences in the importance attached to religion. So, e.g., only 11% of white members of the Church of England saw religion as very important in their lives, compared to 71% of Caribbean members of the new Protestant churches, 43% of Hindus, and 74% of Muslims. Now, minority ethnic groups, with the exception of the Chinese, were all more likely to attend places of worship than white individuals. So therefore, what we can see here is there is a high importance in terms of religion, religious participation and religiosity, and declaring it more in public and participating more actively within these ethnic groups more than in white ethnicity, as it were. Now, another potential reason as to why we might see these differences in terms of these ethnicities is because generally the least religious ethnic minorities, the Chinese as an example, are more likely to be higher social classes, whilst the more religious groups such as Pakistani, Bangladeshi and African Caribbean have high proportions of the working class. So therefore they may be turning towards religion as a way of remedying what they are experiencing within society, legitimating their oppression or poverty in which they may be experiencing as a result. Now, this is one of our key studies here. Now, John Bird for the explanations for high levels of religiosity within some groups. Now, John Bird identifies 5 important reasons why minority ethnic groups are more likely to be more religious than the majority of white population in Britain. The first reason he looks at is many members of minority ethnic groups originate in societies that have high levels of religiosity, such as Pakistan and Caribbean. As a result of that, seemingly they will participate more in religion than us. We do not place a great deal of emphasis on religiosity within modern Britain. Meanwhile, people who are coming from these countries where religiosity and religious participation is central to your identity and your community, seemingly they will be more religious than us. Now, second point here, belonging to a minority ethnic group within a society means that religion can be an important basis for a sense of community and solidarity, and give members a point of contact, sense of identity, and introduce them to potential marriage partners. So therefore, allowing them to maintain their religiosity by seeking that community, which helps them feel as if they do fit in within an alien culture, as it were, which then helps to settle the nerves, the jitters by which they may experience as a result. The third point here, minority groups may see religion as a way of maintaining cultural identity in terms of traditions such as food, language, art, music and so on. So therefore their culture, their belief systems and what they've been raised with will not decline. Fourth point, socialisation can lead to strong pressure on children to maintain religious commitments. And you'll often see within these type of communities, the children will be continue to be influenced by that mainstream religious doctrine that is predominant and influential within their communities. And that is because there is an expectation of them to carry on within their family name or family worship, because that links in with their cultural heritage as well as their own family heritage as well. Last point. Now, religious beliefs may be a way of coping with a sense of oppression. So, for example, Bird quotes a study by Ken Price, which examined how Pentecostalism acted as a way of coping or helping some members of the African Caribbean community in Bristol to cope with low pay and racial discrimination. As a result, it provided them with a community, it provided them with an escape from the horrific conditions by which they may be experiencing. Okay, next section we're looking at is ethnic minority, religion, secularization and revival. Now, Steve Bruce, again, you guys should be sick of hearing his name by now, accepts that ethnic minorities are more religious than whites in modern Britain, but believes that their religiosity is more an expression of community solidarity than of deep religious commitments. So they are looking there, they are staying religious because it provides them with that community by which they once had, by which moving to the UK they are now lacking. Now, he argues that the ethnic minority religious observance stems from two ideas here. Now, the first one is cultural defence, so using religion as a way of protecting identity in an essentially hostile environment. And the reason why we might consider it hostile is because it may be extremely different from what these individuals experienced within their home countries. Now, the cultural transition. Now, religion is used to cope with the upheaval of migration. So it provides them with that warm, fuzzy feeling, as it were, to help them settle in within that mainstream culture. Now, Bruce argues that secular Britain will start to erode the importance of religion for these ethnic minority groups, partly because as we do experience more generations being born into the UK as a society, some of our values in terms of our religiosity and the importance of religion to us will start to influence how those future generations view religion themselves. Now, the next one we're looking at is George Chrysides here in 1994, who takes a more complex view than Bruce. Now, he identifies three possible paths for immigrants and their descendants in terms of religion and religiosity. Now, the first one is apostasy. Now, beliefs are abandoned in a hostile environment. We'll take away and we'll ignore what we learnt within our home countries because it just does not help us. Now, the next one we've got is accommodation. Now, this is religious beliefs are adapted to take account of the changed situation. This is because the environment by which we find ourselves in, we're going to maybe have to shift and alter some of our belief systems so that we fit in within the mainstream. The next one is renewed vigour. Now, religion is reasserted more strongly than ever as a response to actual or perceived hostility. So people become more orthodox within their belief systems purely because they believe that the main of the community or the mainstream of the community is in direct opposition to their religious ideology. Now, George Chrysides here believes that the general pattern in the UK has been accommodation and renewed vigour more than anything. So, for example, accommodations such as Muslim women dressing modestly but still fashionably, or increased vigour, for example, finding no new converts to join them within their religious ideology. Now, obviously, that particular feature, the renewed vigour, we can bring into modern Britain because we have seen an awful lot of converts into terms of the traditional religions, because they are now offering individuals a way of viewing and seeing life that our traditional religion of Church of England does not offer anymore. Now, Giles Keppel in 1994 argues that there has been a general religious revival in the world for both minority and majority religions. He argues that Muslims have retained and strengthened their faith in response to an upsurge of Islamic belief throughout the world. So therefore we can see that as a result of this, potentially secularization is not the correct argument, because religion and religiosity is slowly but surely increasing through each one of the generations. Now, we're going to look at the Policy Studies Institute survey. So, some evidence to evaluate these competing claims is provided by the Policy Studies Institute survey, which was proposed by Madood et al. In 1997. Now, the survey found that younger Chinese, white and African Caribbean people were considerably less likely than older members of these groups to see religion as very important. So for other ethnic groups, younger people were marginally less likely than elders to see religion as very important. Thus, the survey found evidence that religion was in decline from generation to generation, but rather rates in different ethnic groups. Despite this, the survey has found that religion remained much stronger in some groups, particularly Muslims, than in the population as a whole. Now, what does this mean for us? Now, this evidence is not clear-cut in any stretch of the imagination. It's not black and white. It's suggesting that it's just some overall weakening in terms of religion, but it's not very much, because some groups are still growing in terms of religiosity, or some groups are slowly but surely significantly declining. Now, this is problematic because we should be very, very careful as to how we actually view and argue what is happening in terms of ethnicity and religious participation. Okay, thanks for listening. Any questions, let me know.